Existential crisis at 20? Yeah, that has Layla written all over it. Hello and welcome to Alt With Lella. I am your lovely host, Layla, a poet, an Afro-Feminist, life coach, and an artist. Really, what I am is a magician. And Alt With Lella is a lifestyle podcast that offers you alternative ways of feeling, thinking, and living outside of societal conditioning from an Afro-Feminist perspective. Alt With Lella mainly serves as a prompt to the listener to rethink and reflect on what we accept as norm, culture, and heritage. Make sure to click the subscribe button to get notified about new episodes. You can also find Alt With Lella on Instagram and TikTok as Alt With Lella. And if you're interested, you can find my personal accounts at A Lifetime With Layla on both of these platforms. While you're at it, you can check out my website at lifetimewithlayla.com to access the services I provide. Thank you and enjoy. Hello and welcome to Alt With Lella's 5th episode. I am super excited to be here and I appreciate you. Thank you so much for listening. As you can tell by the title, it's called A Quarter Life Crisis. And I just want to talk about, my quarter life crisis that really created that crisis that I had really changed the course of my life. Yeah, so let's get into it. So first, I just kind of want to say, I want to give you a little bit of a personal life update. I was sick last week, so this episode should have been the 6th episode and not the 5th one. But last week I was sick and I totally lost my voice, and you can tell still my voice is still not that great, which leads me to letting you know that this episode is going to be a bit brief because I don't want to risk losing my voice again by yapping a little too much than I can. So I was sick last week, and you know what? Really, I'm really low-key grateful that I was sick last week because I've always been meaning to write. I've always written. I also write poetry, as you know by now. So it really helped me because I was sick last week and I didn't want to not do anything. I decided that I wanted to write a blog post. And since I moved my podcast host from Spotify to Substack, it just worked out really well. So if you don't subscribe to my Substack, it's a great time to do it right now. And I knew that doing a weekly podcast episode was going to be taxing, but then that's the commitment that I wanted to commit to that. And that's the gift that I wanted to give myself because I want to give myself a creative outlet. And I know that I can do this. So at first I thought let me do a bi-weekly episode. And I'm like, what the hell is it? What the hell is even a bi-weekly episode? Ew. Last week, due to my sickness, I instead wrote a blog post that was titled, I Lost My Innocence. A bunch of a few revelations that I had and I wanted to share. And I realized, oh my God, I have found an even better way to create, because officially now, Alt With Lella is not just a podcast, it's also a blog. So I have decided to do 1 week blog post and 1 week podcast episode. And I think that I really found my sweet spot. And I think that as you go on this journey with me, this podcast or this publication will evolve with me. And I really hope that you stick around through the evolution because I know it'll be worth it. Once my voice is better, I'm going to change the intro to this podcast a little bit to just say that, because it says Alt With Lella as a lifestyle podcast, right? So I'm going to edit it a little bit so it is a lifestyle podcast and blog. Yay! I'm super happy, actually. I'm very excited to but be a better writer as I write more blog posts. So now let's get into this week's episode, A Quarter Life Crisis. On the 4th episode, I quit and I won. It really ties into that, but I didn't really have a chance because I was focusing on that specific journey of quitting school and winning. And I didn't really get into the quarter life crisis that took place. before it, and that led to that as well. I'll just start off saying that the quarter life crisis that I had was the greatest gift, because it completely changed the course of my life in ways that I never thought could change. And it made me come face to face with what was really, really important and what was really missing in my life. So this whole thing takes place. I remember, like, I mentioned it in the I Quit and I Won episode. I said, like, so just a recap a little bit. I went to I went to uni in China, and then I was studying software engineering, and then I was working the whole time. And so basically, in the first school I went to didn't really work out, because the course was in a language in Chinese, and I didn't have enough Chinese knowledge to actually do a bachelor in it, with it. So then I changed schools, and then I finally started my major in English. I was super excited, loving life, like slaying, like loving it, living it up, right? And so I I was going to school. I was always working, even though I'm a scholarship student and I didn't really need to work. But I just didn't. I never knew another way. Let's just put it like that. It just made sense to work, because, like, what the hell? Why not? So yeah, I was working, and then I was in a dorm room before my first uni. So the second one, I was like super excited to get my own apartment, and that was my first apartment ever. Like, yeah, it was getting my own apartment, going to a school that I liked, and like that I was gonna get the education that I wanted, or so I thought. And everything was perfect. That's just how I'll put it. I was doing all the right things, right? And like, I remember having my first housewarming party, and it was so amazing. I still have photos. I just I was so happy. Everything was so perfect. Like, as if my life was a dream. It was so perfect. And then school started, and it was going whatever. This was before it got bad, right? Before I knew that I made a huge mistake, or like, this is not a good fit for me. The school that I went to, that is the second school that I applied to and got in. So yeah, and one day I remember I was like, wow, I've checked all the boxes, I'm working, check. I'm going to school, check. I have my own place, check. I'm independent, I can take care of myself, check. Like, I'm healthy, I am everything is as it should be. Everything I have done, everything to the T. And how old was I? I was not 25. I was 20 years old then. Yeah. So like 11 years ago. Everything was perfect. And then I was in my living room, I like looking out the window. And I was like, also just a sidebar, I was in my favorite town. I was in my favorite area of the city that I got my apartment in. So basically, pretty great, pretty great, and no complaints. Life's beautiful, it's perfect, I'm winning, right? So one day I was like looking out my window, and I was like, wow, I did everything they said that I should do. I did everything they said that I should do. I went to the school, I got the job, I got the place. I am an independent girly, like. And yet there was an emptiness that I could not describe to you. I was like, hey, this should feel better. I should feel contented. I should feel good. Like, there was a longing and a yearning in my heart space and my entire, like, being, that this is not enough. This was not enough for me. And somehow I felt scammed. I felt like they said that I should do this. They said that I should do all of these things. So I should feel a certain way by now. And I'm not feeling what I thought I would feel now, after doing all the things right. You know? I was just like, I was at a loss. I was like, this is it? This is it? This is it? This is, like, it was kind of baffling. Like, this is it? Where is the contentment? Where's the okay, this is enough feeling? Where is the I did it, I made it, I'm successful feeling? It's not there. I felt scammed big time. I felt played, because I felt like this should feel more fulfilling, I felt like this should give me more than it is giving me now. And And then the thing is, because I didn't know where else to look. This was the only thing that I was told or conditioned or educated to look for, to check these boxes, right? And I didn't know what else to do to fulfill myself. Like, that's why the crisis took place, right? What now? What now? What do I do with this? I feel empty, and I don't know how to not feel empty. I don't know what to do with this. I didn't know what else to become for this emptiness to go away. And I was lost. I was very confused. I was very lost. I felt like I said, I always felt scammed and played. And then I was like, I don't know. Like, I I felt like I'm like at a loss for words, because it leaves you absolutely speechless. It leaves you it leaves you with an emptiness that you cannot fill with the resources or the knowledge or the things that you have now. And I didn't know which direction to go after that, because they told me this was it. I'm here and it ain't it. And now I don't know where to go. And now I don't know what I want. And now I don't know what any of this means, because it means nothing to me. I could literally cry right now thinking about it. Yeah, I'm just gonna give you a moment of silence to kind of let this sink in, because I need it to sink in. What now? And you know what this experience in that moment, or like in this continuing moments of my life, you know what it made me think of? I remember when I was younger, when I was 18, 17, 18, and I was in my last 2 years of high school. I remember my father having a midlife crisis, and he was at the time staying with us because he was doing his PhD, and he was in the living room a lot. Like, yeah, he was, holed up in the living room, studying and basically losing his marbles. And I remember I did not enter the living room for 2 whole years that year. Those years that he wasn't there, because the vibes were off. The vibes were off. I mean, I was never a fan of the man. So him having a whole midlife crisis in the living room for 2 years while studying PhD was not a vibe, babes. No, it could never be. And and that's what I thought of, like, oh my gosh, imagine feeling this way when you're 50, when you're 60. Imagine feeling scammed at that age. And then you feel, obviously, because 20 and 60 are two different ages, right? Like at 60 you may feel way more hopeless, about turning your life around, even though I don't think it's impossible, and I think it's so possible to have a whole new life at that age. But I don't really have an experience on that, so, but I don't think it's impossible. But yeah, imagine checking all the boxes, right? Imagine going to school, check. Going to university, getting your degree, getting your master's, check. Getting that husband or wife, getting those children, buying that house, buying the car, doing everything. Check, 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 check. And then when you're done doing all of that, and when you're retired, finally you have time to think. And then you sit down and you feel empty. You sit down and you feel scammed, like as if there should be more out of this life, and that you should feel more fulfilled than you do now because you did everything right. Imagine that feeling then. That's what I thought about. And the other thing that it made me realize is privilege. Gosh, I'm getting emotional. Like, is there an episode where I won't be emotional? Jeez. So, um, what made me think about is privilege, right? Because I am, even though I am not privileged, I am privileged. Do you know what I mean? There's a spectrum, basically. And privilege allows you to suffer. Privilege and suffering are very existential suffering, at least. Privilege brings you closer. That's my theory, okay? You can fight me in the comments or in the chat, whatever, I'm down. But what I'm saying is privilege brings you closer, serves you up for existential crisis. And that is a gift. That is truly a gift, because once you have that existential crisis, then you can start having a meaningful life. That is not a meaningful, like, once you have that existential crisis, then you can actually start or think about having a meaningful and intentional life in the way that you see fit, you know? And I thank my stars every day to be privileged enough to have my quarter life crisis at 20, because it gave me the existential crisis I didn't want but needed. I think it made me question life. It made me question what the hell the point of it was. And I would rather do that in my 20 than in my 60s. And I'm not saying just because I had a quarter life crisis I didn't have more existential crises after that. I definitely did. My existential crisis is low key my bread and butter, but I know what life is now to me. I know I I I know who I am, and I know what life is, and I know what the meaning I give my life, you know? I am whole and full because of that experience. And back in the day, our parents or our parents' parents didn't, the stories. They walked barefoot to school for miles or like kilometers and kilometers, and then they finally made it to school. All this because we asked for a new pair of shoes, and they tell us all these stories. And what I notice is that life keeps you so busy. Survival, not life. Survival keeps you so busy, so busy. Going to work, going to school. Like, you're so busy trying to check these boxes that you don't know time is passing. And then when it's finally time for you to rest and enjoy the fruits of your labor, you're left with a crisis. Because time has passed without you being present, without you living fully. And I'm not saying that you need to be privileged to live fully, although it fucking helps, okay? But you're just not there because you're so tied down with needing to survive, needing to make it. And then society, being society, demands that you demands so much of you, demands that you get a degree, demands that once you get a degree you get a master's to go up the fucking ladder of whatever the fuck it is, I don't know. And then that's not it. It continues. They expect you to get married, and then before you even know who you are, you end up in a relationship, you get married, and then before you even know what the hell a marriage is, you end up having children, and now you're living for your children, and now you have to survive. The demand on your survival needs doubles and triples when you have kids, right? And then you're so tied down by all of that busyness and trying to make ends meet all the time that life passes you almost, and then by the time you're retired you have a moment of reflection then, because you never could have that, because that is also a privilege, right? And so when you sit down finally, and then and then also don't And then the other issue is that, like, yes, you have a family, you have a beautiful family, you have kids and everything. And you're like, and then there's guilt, like, this should be enough, I have people in my life that I love, that love me. I have children, I have a beautiful husband or a partner or whatever. And you hate yourself also because that's not enough, you know? And there's also guilt with that. There's self-loathing, like, why is this not enough for me? Why do I want more? And it's just so much worse because you feel scammed. You feel set up because they said that this would be it and it's not it. And you demand more and you want more, and there's a yearning for something much more deeper. It's heartbreaking. I don't know how else to put it. And if I felt that in my 20, because like I told you, like, everything was perfect. I had everything that I needed and wanted. And yet it wasn't enough. It was not it. And it made it, I felt bad, obviously, because this should be enough, right? But it's not enough. And then you're like, what the hell is wrong with me? I felt so empty. I felt so confused. And then, like I said in the last episode, I quit and I won. And then that's when I started. And then the school got worse, gradually worse and worse. My mental health escalated. And then that's when I was, also having suicidal ideations and whatnot, right? Because I started questioning everything. That's what it did for me. I started questioning everything. That's because I'll be damned if I get played again. And it made me realize, did I really want to go to school? Because I know I always wanted to learn, but did I want to go to school? Did anything in my life happen because I wanted it to? No. It felt like life happened to me. It felt like before I was born, everything was written down for me. And then I was just supposed to, go according to that setup. That's how it felt like. I realized, how is life already predetermined for me? Well, it's not fair. Don't I have a say in this? Whose life am I living? Yeah, and it made me question every single thing. And made me question why the hell I'm there in that moment. Did I want to be in here? Did I want to be in this moment? Am I doing the things that I wanted to do? Or, like, I woke from the dream, the puppet dream. I think that's a better title. Yeah. I guess this episode is gonna be long because I'm noticing that I have yapped long. Surprise, surprise. So yeah, this is what happened to me. And that there's no happy ending to this, really, because there's no end to this, like, in the sense, like, there's no conclusion to this episode, in the sense that the previous episode, in the fourth episode, I really covered a lot of what took place after, but I really did want to highlight this because this is fundamental. This is fundamental. And yeah, and I really needed to share this with you all. And I'm so grateful for it, extremely grateful for it. And it's changed the course of my life. And I can't wait to share more with you as we go along. And thank you so much for listening to me talk. I really value you. And I appreciate you. And I see you. And as per usual, I'm going to read a poem for you. So this poem is kind of related to, I realized that one day that being strong is a scam. Because when you're so strong, you're rigid, you're not versatile. And I realized, like, fuck being strong. I want to be weak. So here goes. No title again. I want to be weak. I want to be soft. I want the waves of life to come to form me and the winds to blow and construct me. Gravity to bring me down to earth when the skyscraper me or the cockroach in me slips up to the point that I can no longer see that life is not happening to me, but is happening for me. And see. And because Alt With Lella serves as a prompt to the listener, I invite you to unpack or explore how much of the choices you've made are yours in your life. I invite you to explore those choices before it's too late, even though I don't think there's such a thing as too late, but the sooner the better is my thing. I invite you to explore whose life you're living. Are you living your life, or are you living a life that was predetermined for you? I invite you to ask yourself, who are you? And if a person just looked at your choices, could they find you in it? Or would you be like, because a lot of the times, another thing that really surprises me is that people say, I didn't ask to be born, right? And when you say, I didn't ask to be born, you completely take away responsibility of your life. Because, hey, you didn't ask for it, right? So you remove accountability, you remove responsibility, and by that, you become the victim of your circumstances. Me personally, I knew I asked to be born. So it's good when you empower yourself. Like, if you did ask to be born, what would your life look like? Is another thing that I invite you to explore. And again, I wish you the strength and the courage to wake up. All right. I think that's enough yapping for the 5th episode of Alt With Lella, Quarter Life Crisis. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. You can also find Alt With Lella on Instagram and TikTok as Alt With Lella. And if you're interested, you can find my personal account at A Lifetime With Lella on both of these platforms. While you're at it, you can check out my website, altwithlella.com, to access the services I provide. Thank you for listening, and goodbye until next time.